The sun shines bright on a clean driveway where Maya stands holding a shiny set of keys. She is smiling at her new 3-bedroom house, the kind of home everyone says you should buy as soon as you can. Just then, Chloe pulls up in a brand new luxury SUV. The paint is a smooth matte black, and as she opens the door, you can almost smell the expensive new leather through the screen. Maya and Chloe look over at their friend Sarah. Sarah is sitting on a plain cardboard box inside a small, rented studio apartment. She is staring deeply into her laptop screen. Maya and Chloe share a look of pity. To them, they have finally made it, while Sarah is still just starting out at the bottom. But when the camera moves closer to Sarah, you don't see someone who is sad or struggling. She looks focused. In the reflection of her eyes, you can see a bright green line on a financial chart moving upward. No one mentions a single dollar, but the contrast is loud. On one side, you have 2 women surrounded by heavy, beautiful things that cost a lot to keep. On the other side, you have a woman with almost nothing but a blinking cursor and a plan. It makes you wonder, is Sarah actually falling behind, or is she the only one who sees the trap that the others just walked into? Most of us were raised on a specific dream. We were told that buying a home is the smartest investment you will ever make, and that a fast car is the best way to show the world your hard work paid off. This video is not about skipping your morning coffee to save pennies. It is about something much bigger, called capital efficiency. We are going to look at the real math behind these 3 lives over the next 10 years. We will look at the numbers people usually hide, like taxes, interest, and the cost of missed chances. By the end, you will see that what looks like a win is often just a very expensive cage. Hey there, I am Presh. I'm a digital storyteller and content creator who loves breaking down the big patterns that shape our lives, whether that is a high-stakes drama or the real math behind your bank account. I spent months studying how the world's most successful people build their stories and their wealth, and now I'm sharing those secrets with you. If you want to see through the traps and start building a life of real freedom, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Join our community so you never miss a deep dive into the truth about your money and your future. This idea that some debt is good started a long time ago, right after World War II. Back then, buying a house was the only way for normal families to grow their wealth. It was a simple rule: get a job, buy a home, and pay it off. Because it worked for our grandparents, we grew up believing it is the only way to be safe. This belief stays alive because of how it feels. Maya can walk through her hallway and touch the solid walls of her house. Chloe can sit back and feel the warmth of the heated seats in her SUV. This feeling of being able to touch what you own creates a false sense of security. It makes you feel rich because your money has turned into something physical that you can see every day. However, there is a big piece of the story that we are taught to ignore. We call this invisible friction. Even though Maya calls her home an investment, it doesn't actually put money in her pocket every month. In fact, it does the opposite. A house you live in is a place that constantly asks for more money for repairs, insurance, and taxes. We have been trained to think of a home as a bank account, but a bank account is supposed to grow. A house is a liability that stays hungry. While Maya and Chloe enjoy the feeling of owning these heavy things, they are missing the fact that their wealth is stuck. They have traded their freedom for objects they can touch, forgetting that the best kind of money is the kind that is free to move and grow. To see the real trap, we have to look at the actual numbers for Maya's $500,000 house and Chloe's $80,000 SUV. Maya thinks she is building wealth, but her mortgage has a 7% interest rate. When you add in property taxes at about 1.2% and the common rule that you should spend 1% of the home's value every year just on repairs, the math changes. During the first 5 years, almost 80% of Maya's monthly payment doesn't even go toward owning the house. Instead, that money vanishes into interest for the bank and taxes for the government. She is spending thousands of dollars every month, but she barely owns any more of the house than she did on day 1. Maya isn't really buying a house, she is renting money from the bank and renting a plot of land from the state. Chloe's situation is even faster at taking her money away. The moment she drove her $80,000 SUV off the lot, it suffered a drive-off loss. In just the first year, that car loses 20% of its value. That is $16,000 gone just because she turned the key. When you add in the high cost of insurance for a luxury vehicle and the expensive high octane fuel it needs to run, she is paying a huge price for a machine that gets worth less every single day. While Maya's money is trapped in walls and Chloe's money is burning in an engine, they both quote the high price of their items as if that is how much they are worth. In reality, the true monthly cost is mostly money they will never see again. They are focused on the price tag, but they are missing the massive hole in their pockets where their future savings used to be. While Maya and Chloe are busy paying for things they can touch, Sarah is building what we call a ghost portfolio. She starts with the $100,000 that Maya used as a down payment for her house. Then, every single month, Sarah takes the $1,200 that Chloe spends on her car loan and insurance and puts that to work too. Sarah doesn't want a heavy house or a shiny car right now. Instead, she splits her money into two main buckets. She puts 80% into a total world stock index, which means she owns a tiny piece of thousands of the biggest companies across the globe. She puts the other 20% into blue chip crypto, like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Her money isn't sitting in a driveway or stuck in a roof. It is working for her in the background 24 hours a day. The biggest advantage Sarah has is something called liquidity. This just means her money is easy to move. Let's say Sarah gets offered a new job in a different city with a $50,000 raise. To go get that extra money, all she has to do is click a sell button on her computer and her cash is ready to go. She can move her life in a single weekend. Maya, on the other hand, is trapped. If Maya wants to move, she has to hire a realtor who will take 6% of the home's value as a fee. She also has to wait months for someone to buy her house and deal with all the paperwork. Sarah's wealth is invisible, but it gives her the power to change her life instantly. She doesn't own a mansion or a luxury SUV, but she owns her time and her choices, which are the most valuable things of all. As the years pass, we can see how these different choices start to pull these three lives apart. By year 3, the excitement has started to fade for the others. Chloe's SUV doesn't feel new anymore, and it is now worth only half of what she still owes the bank. At the same time, Maya's house has its first big problem, a leaking roof that costs $15,000 to fix. That is money she will never get back. Meanwhile, Sarah is still living in her small studio apartment. To an outsider, she looks like she is struggling, but her portfolio has actually doubled in value. She has no big repairs or car payments holding her down. She just has a screen full of growing numbers. By year 10, the gap becomes a canyon. Maya has built up $150,000 in equity, which sounds like a lot until you remember how much she spent on interest and repairs to get there. Chloe is now on her third luxury car loan, still chasing that new car smell and still sending a huge check to the bank every month. Sarah, however, has hit a major milestone. Her ghost portfolio has crossed the $1 million mark. Because she let her money compound without touching it, she is now making more money from her investments than she does from her actual job. When retirement day finally arrives, the two realities look completely different. Maya is house rich but cash poor. She owns a beautiful home, but she has very little money in the bank to actually live on. She has to be careful with every dollar just to keep the lights on in her big house. Sarah's life is defined by an abundance of choice. She doesn't have to worry about property taxes or car notes. She can choose to live anywhere in the world, stay in the finest hotels, or simply spend her days doing whatever she loves. One woman is tied to a building, while the other is fueled by a fortune that fits in her pocket. Sarah didn't look rich at the start, but she is the only one who ended up truly free. Even though the math seems to favor Sarah, we have to be fair and look at why Maya might actually be right. One of the biggest reasons people buy houses is something called leverage. This is a fancy way of saying Maya is playing with the bank's money. If Maya puts down 20% of the cost and the value of the house goes up by just 5%, she actually makes a 25% profit on the cash she spent. This is a powerful way to grow money that Sarah can't always do with her stocks. Because the bank let Maya borrow so much, any small gain in the housing market feels much bigger in her pocket. There is also the reality of how people actually behave with their money. A mortgage acts like a forced savings plan. Every month, Maya is required to pay her bill, and a small part of that goes toward owning more of her home.
Without that monthly bill, many people in Maya's shoes might not have the discipline to save.
They might spend that extra cash on fancy lattes, nice vacations, or clothes they don't really need. For many people, a house is the only reason they save anything at all. If Maya didn't have a house, her bank account might be empty because she spent the money instead of investing it like Sarah did. Finally, the government actually helps people like Maya through the tax shield. In many places, the government lets you take the money you paid in mortgage interest and subtract it from your taxes, which saves you money every year. Also, if Maya lives in her house for a few years and then sells it for a profit, she might not have to pay any taxes on the first $250,000 she makes. This is a huge deal that most other investments don't get. So while Sarah's path is fast, Maya's path is built on special rules and habits that have helped people stay stable for a very long time. For some, the peace of mind and the tax breaks make the house worth every penny. Even though Sarah's plan looks perfect on paper, there is a big problem called the human glitch. There is a famous study called the Dale Bar study that looks at how real people actually handle their money. It shows that while the stock market might return 10% on average, the average investor only makes about 4%. Why is that? It's because humans get scared. When the market crashes or a crypto winter hits and prices drop, many people like Sarah panic. They see their hard-earned money disappearing on the screen, and they sell everything at the worst possible time just to make the pain stop. This is where the reality of these two lives really hits. Maya's house is a forced habit. She can't just click a button and sell her living room because she had a bad day or because the news said the housing market is down. She has to keep paying and she has to stay put. This forced discipline keeps her invested even when times are tough. Sarah, on the other hand, needs nerves of steel. She has to watch her net worth go up and down like a roller coaster and stay calm enough to do nothing. Most people think they are brave until they see their life savings drop by 30% in a single week. The big insight here is that a plan that is mathematically worse, but that you can actually stick to, is much better than a perfect plan that makes you sick with worry. If Sarah gets so much anxiety during a market dip that she can't sleep, she will eventually quit and lose all her progress. Maya might be paying more in fees and interest, but she is consistent. In the world of money, being able to stay the course is often more important than having the best spreadsheet. The best strategy isn't the one with the highest numbers. It's the one that lets you sleep at night without wanting to give up. To make the best choice for your own life, you can use 3 simple rules to see if you are walking into a trap. The first is the 5% rule. You add up the money you lose on a house every year, things like property taxes, repairs, and mortgage interest. If those costs are higher than what it would cost to rent a similar place, then Sarah's plan wins. Renting isn't throwing money away if it costs less than the hidden fees of owning. Second, there is the 1/10 rule for cars. To keep your wealth moving forward, the price of your car should never be more than 10% of what you make in a year. If you make $50,000, your car shouldn't cost more than $5,000. This keeps Chloe's trap from snapping shut on your budget. Finally, you must remember the opportunity multiplier. This is the most important rule for young investors. Because of how money grows over time, every $1,000 that Maya overpays on a house or a fancy car today is actually costing her $10,000 in retirement. When you spend money on things that use value, you aren't just losing that cash, you are losing the future fortune that money could have become. By using these 3 rules, you can stop guessing and start measuring. These numbers show you exactly where the alternative path wins and where the conventional path makes sense. It isn't about being lucky. It's about knowing the thresholds that separate people who look rich from the people who actually are. When these women turn 60 years old, their lives look very different on a regular Tuesday morning. Maya wakes up in her beautiful large home. The walls are sturdy and the garden is perfect, but she feels a heavy weight. Because her money is tied up in the house, she has to keep working a full-time job until she is 70, just to pay for the property taxes, the heating, and the constant repairs. She has a great house, but she has no choice but to keep working. She is surrounded by a status symbol that she can never truly afford to leave. On that same Tuesday, Sarah wakes up in a comfortable apartment that she rents. She doesn't own the building, but she doesn't care. Her ghost portfolio is so large now that it pays her more every month than a normal job ever could. While Maya is headed to the office, Sarah is at the airport, heading to a new country just because she felt like it. She doesn't have the big house, but she has every single Tuesday for the rest of her life. The decision comes down to this. One path buys you status, and the other path buys you time. You have to ask yourself, which one are you actually building? You can spend your life trying to look successful to your neighbors, or you can build a quiet fortune that sets you free. The math doesn't have a bias, but your lifestyle does. Stop spotting the deal and start spotting the trap.